Okay, we should be live as of now. So there's a small delay on the YouTube feed, but hopefully you can all see us. So if you can, good evening everybody. As you'll be fully aware now, these are the handsome features of my good self, Kris. And joining me this evening, I have your favourite and my favourite American, Mr. Jason Schrader. Good evening, Jace.
Cheers, everybody. Drinking some nice American bourbon from Kentucky tonight. That's the drink of choice for Sundays.
Love it. A celebratory drink indeed. And
yes.
also joining us, we have a debutant. Some people will know him as Aaqib, but we know him as Aaqib. Good evening, Aaqib. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Kris. How are you? How's everyone doing?
Yeah, not bad, my friend. Not bad. Quite happy after a fairly routine victory today, which is the sort of routine or sort of victories we enjoy. Keep them nice and simple. Right. Well, we're joined by people on the old YouTube. I know producer and ladies' favourite Danny is with us. Hello there, Danny. So let's get right on to it then. First of all, Jace, I will come to you. We'll just do a little bit of a brief kind of sum up and synopsis of how you thought the game went. Give us a sort of flavour of your views.
I think it was one of those games where it could have easily been a trap game for us. As you know, Borough have done pretty well down in the championship. I think they're on top of the table now, about to come up hopefully this season. Hopefully from their fans' perspective, thinking that they could win promotion outright. Went to the Etihad and got a victory in the previous round, so not a team to be taken lightly. And I'm glad that we came out with some fire and some sort of like a fire lit under us after the last couple of performances where we just sort of looked flat and dull. I think early on we were just worlds above them. Just the way we were playing, they were allowing us space. Ozil was having a great first half. Sainty had a great first half. Get into players overall. And I think, the two goals we easily deserved with how we were controlling the game. And I think once we got that sort of towards the end of the first half, we put the handbrake on, defended until the second half, and then came back out in the second half with a little more fire and fervor again to start it and continue to just sort of see the game out in a professional manner. They had some opportunities that could have gone their way, and luckily they didn't. So I think it was a good win all around. A couple of hairy moments, just once or twice in the match, but very good overall, and especially with sort of a back line that with Gabriel getting his first start and his debut in an Arsenal kit was really good to see. Chambers out there on the right, still some questions about him, but he didn't have any major gaffes today that led to any goals or anything really, really tough. So it was a good overall game. Was able to sort of sit back and relax and change the bed sheets while it was going on. I wasn't panicking, which was nice. I was able to get some work done while watching it. So also that I think that helped my wife out that it wasn't like that because it's helping her. So it was great to see and a good overall deserved performance. And I sort of have in my gut, thinking yesterday, I really think that we're going to go back to back this year with the FA Cup. And I think right now with the form we have in it and the players that we can bring off of the bench into these matches, I think is pretty massive. At this moment, I would go ahead and say it's ours to lose.
Nicely summed up. Aaqib, what was your sort of general thoughts on today, and anything you want to add to what Jason said there?
I think Jason summed up pretty well. I was a bit edgy going into this game because they just beat City. They were on a roll. They had 12. They haven't lost in 12 games. And the starting lineup concerned me because I thought it was going to be too attacking with Cazorla, Welbeck, Rosicki, and Giroud. I thought it was going to be too attacking, but Cazorla just did that Aaron Ramsey role. So he gave some. Can't think of the word. He brought some calmness into the midfield, which we've been lacking since Arteta left. So I think that was a big step in Cazorla's play and in Arsenal's play as well. So that was a big difference in the team.
Yeah, fairly sort of straightforward and relaxed. I think from my point of view, can't really add too much to what both of you said. Really, I mean, it was fairly sort of chilled out and fairly kind of just a nice. I wouldn't say easy, but kind of laid back result, and we never really looked under any pressure. Jace, I'll come back to you. We'll sort of start to have a look at some players individually. We could start with Giroud, but I'd like to start with Gabriel. Made his debut today. I was a little bit surprised to see him start alongside Koscielny. I actually thought Mertesacker would be starting, although I can see why. I think Per's played every game. So puts paid to the fact that Gabriel can't play with Koscielny because he's too similar, which a few people I know have said before he's even put a shirt on. What did you make of his performance today?
I actually thought about tweeting out and didn't. I was actually going to tweet at the end of the game. Gabriel, no goals, no assists, must be shit. But no, I think he had a solid game. Like I said, we weren't really under that much pressure at times. So you had to sort of pick up little things. There were a couple of aerial duels that he got involved in where I think he was. He understands the physicality because he went into those really, really solid and really up for it. And held his own against a championship side who the lower you go in league football, typically the more physical and more rugby-like it gets. So Middlesbrough weren't just going to come in sort of letting our new defender from Spain come in and just sort of waltz all over him. They were going to put a body on him and see how he reacted. I think he reacted very well. And I just want to sort of hold out judgment and it's great to see that we did keep a clean sheet today with him and Koscielny in there and Szczesny as well. But still, I think it's really too early to make any sweeping judgments other than I think he's solid. I think he's got the potential to develop into somebody really nice. I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's going to ever reach the level of the world's greatest defender. At the same time, I think he can develop into somebody who's going to consistently challenge for first team spots, if not be on the first team here in the next little bit. And it's just getting that settling in period, learning his teammates, and getting enough English underneath his belt to be able to communicate effectively on the pitch with all those around him. So I'm excited to see him. It's good to see that in his first game, the clean sheet, and I guess now we can start doing like those infographics that Dorkley's great at. That in all the matches Gabriel and Koscielny have started, 0 goals.
That's I've got a couple to add to that, courtesy of our very own Jeff in a minute. But Aaqib, what did you make of Gabriel? There was one tackle in particular towards the end of mid part of the second half where he clattered through, sliding challenge, took the ball, took the man, took everything. Is he a defender? Obviously, we can only judge on one game, but do you like the look of him?
Yeah, I like the look of him. He's nice and physical and strong as well. There was a point in the middle of the second half where he had to make a block tackle, and he got booked for it, and that was what we were lacking in previous years. And we're glad that we had a defender that is strong and willing to do that and take the yellow card and take it for the team.
And do you think that he is? Obviously, again, it's hard to judge on one performance, but do you think that he's sort of the answer to our defensive issues long term as a starter? Do you think he'll be sort of blended in slowly throughout the season, or do you think you might get more games between sort of now and the end of the season?
I think it's too early to tell for me. You can't judge a player on one game, but by the looks of it, it could be could be a potential replacement for Koscielny, and Chambers is coming from Mertesacker, and them two developing that partnership. So I think it's one for the future, and it's one for Callum Chambers and Gabriel to develop a partnership and develop that chemistry between each other.
Yeah, I think that's well put. For my sort of 10 pence worth, I thought he was solid. I thought he looks like an athlete, which is probably the minimum you'd expect of a player at this level. But he does look an athlete. Good in the air. I actually quite like the booking he got because it pretty much showed to me already that he's got a clear understanding that if a player is running through and there's nobody there behind, you need to stop him. Something that we've not been cynical enough to do in the past. So I'm quite a fan already, and he does look like a bastard, which in my book is good.
Wenger actually said after that, just as Gunner Blog was putting up sort of the post-match reaction from Wenger, and Wenger said, Gabriel has 3 important qualities: great concentration level, great urgency to defend, and really good pace. And I think that was one of the keys to see was, 1, how quickly he does go to defend, and then 2, he did show some bursts of speed, which as much as sort of Mertesacker's positioning makes up for his speed, it's decent to have 2 quick defenders back there who, when we do play these teams that want to counter and break on us, it's not sort of one guy hoping to break up the attack and then the other guy having to run all the way back to defend on his own with the keeper. It's going to be interesting to see sort of how he develops the relationship between Koscielny and Gabriel, and between Gabriel and Mertesacker as well. Because I think having these types of options now will only be good for how we can set up defensively against the larger teams, especially hopefully when we continue to advance in the Champions League.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another option, isn't it, which we didn't have 6 months ago even. So, Jace, I'll stick with you for a minute. Talk to me a little bit about Olivier Giroud. Talk to me about those goals and his overall play, and just talk to me about OG12.
Yeah, so and if you Kris, you probably know this as well, from the Triangle Gooners podcast when I was on there, and even now, I've always been a big fan of Giroud. A lot of people say we'll never win the league with him up top, and I tend to disagree a little bit. He's not your average striker. I think he was mentioned on the podcast that he's more of an all-around sort of forward than he is just your out-and-out goal scorer. Can't disagree with that. But I do think we can win the league with him up top for us starting a majority of our league games. One of the interesting things to see now is he's able, and I criticized him for this, last year as well, and his first year was he just didn't look comfortable with the ball at his feet running towards goal. Sort of everything he did was with his back towards the goal or sort of laterally, where now he's being able to take on a defender too. It's not the prettiest thing that you've ever seen by any means, but he's able to take on some defenders and run at them a little bit more and have that confidence. So that's great to see sort of his development since he's come here, that he's able to do that, and it shows the professionalism of the player to say, hey, this has been a flaw in my game. Let me fix this. I still think he needs to work on turning with the ball and his back to goal, especially when he's in the box. I think that would really sort of make him that quote-unquote out-and-out striker that we've really been calling for, because that would allow him to get more shots off inside the box and create a little bit more on his own. But that being said, the first goal was a great ball in. Just the tap in there could have had a couple of decisions to make, and at times you see some strikers sort of fluff their lines because they can't pick which way they want to go, but he just sort of picked a way and went with it. I even think the keeper got a touch to it and just sort of bounced underneath him. But the second goal, oh my gosh, it's one of those goals that when they showed it in sort of slow motion and you see the angle that he's got to use his left foot at to get the ball on goal and in the back of the net, and it was just brilliant. It was a brilliant run. He actually almost showed pace, which was surprising, in breaking away from his man towards the near post. And it looked like something you draw up on the training ground, and like we've tried to draw up on the training ground that hasn't come off this year. And this time it finally came off, and it was great to see. And it was a clinical finish, and it was a finish of an informed striker and somebody who's really starting to get at the top of their game since coming back from his injury.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wanted to touch on something. Obviously, you mentioned the second goal. Aaqib reminded me a little bit of a Giroud goal against that lot up the road a few years ago, where he got to the near post and tucked it away. A very similar style finish. Based on what Jason said there, are you one of these people that still thinks we could do better up front, or are you quite happy with Giroud and particularly how he plays today?
I'm particularly, I'm on the Giroud side. I think we can win the league with him. We almost did it last year, but unfortunately injuries to Walcott and Ramsey, and they sort of held us back and cost us I wouldn't say cost us the league, but they the injuries just, yeah, I'll say they cost us the league. And one thing that does need to work on is inside the box, turning and having a shot, which Jason pointed out. And I think that if he works on his weaknesses, obviously he can't work. He needs more speed in those quick turns. If he works on those, he could be a pretty lethal striker because he can do everything else. But his best, when he's at his best, is when he's got his back towards goal and he has runners off him like Walcott, Sanchez, Ramsey, Ozil, Cazorla. When he's on form and they're making runs and he gets those flicks on, he's one of the best at doing that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's well put. Very underrated. Very underrated. I think there's, he's a good-looking lad. He's got quite an ungainly style, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to being easy on the eye. I think somebody put in the chat room, which I'll try and find it to give you credit, but somebody put that how much credit would Sergio Aguero have got if that second goal was his? It was Steve Moneybags, and if Aguero scores that, I think everyone is wiping up the fluid off the floor. But yeah, Giroud does it, and it's like, oh well, that was decent. But then, what can you expect when Michael Owen's in the commentary box? I'll just leave that one there. I'm going to give you both each two more players each to give me just a very sort of brief viewpoint on them. I'll give you one at a time. Jace, give me a bit of a sort of a nudge to Mesut Ozil today in his performance.
Again, I've been on the Mesut Ozil train for Ozil. However you say his name, however the umlaut's pronounced. My boy M.O. No, I've said he's a world-class player from the day we bought him. There are times when he needed a little bit more strength on the ball, especially on the wings when you get those physical fullbacks in the Premier League trying to knock you off. And he's bulked up and he's really, really, stepped his game up. And he's returning into that form that he had whenever him and Walcott were still on the side just after we purchased him. And those, I think it was like a Stoke game and a Sunderland game that he really just stood out. And I think it was the Sunderland game, his first game, when Theo missed 8 chances one-on-one with the keeper. I think he put one of them away. But Ozil would have had 17 assists or something in that game. It's just the English style is so very all out, sort of balls to the wall, pedal to the metal the whole time. And Mesut's such a different style player. He's very languid and fluid in his movements. There's not a lot. He has perfected the way he works himself around the ball to where it's the most minimal physical movement possible. Which it's very difficult for somebody to do that and hone the skill like that, just from a technique standpoint, and to be able to have that much body control. But he does it in such a magnificent way. And he's got these great little step overs that he does when he's one-on-one with his back to a defender, especially if he's going away from goal, that the way he uses his footwork, he can literally go left or right, whichever way he wants to go. In a split second with the ball and create space away from that defender to either pass the ball off or to dribble more into the box. And I love the guy. I probably am an Ozil apologist and think that he can do no wrong. And he had a couple of giveaways today. Everybody does at soccer, and you're going to try some stuff that doesn't come off. I would rather us try some stuff that doesn't come off than not try it at all. And sort of be 2012, 2013 Aaron Ramsey, who was back pass Ramsey, and it's great to see that he's developed as well. But I think with Mesut and the way he fits into our team right now, the pace that we finally have around him, it's starting to show. And just it's the little things that he does that nobody else really does right now on the team. To keep the ball, the little turns, the little spins away to create space, the way he passes to the right foot, the way he passes to take you away from defenders. Those are things that they're not quantified in a stat sheet, but they do so much for the team as a whole in helping produce our attacks and our build-up that you got to give the guy credit. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's unhappy here. He's going to go back to Germany or whatever." The day he does that, I'm probably going to cry because I want this. I want us to keep him and Sanchez as long as we can, and really build our team around those two players and allow them to sort of dictate our style of play because they're both world-class players who, on any given day, will beat anybody else in the world with their talents.
Yeah, that's perfectly put, and well summed up on Mesut. Aaqib, I'll give you. In fact, I'll just give you one player, and then we'll just skip along. Give me your thoughts on Kieran Gibbs today. Return to the side. Obviously, Nacho Monreal seems to be preferred as the first choice at the moment. But how did you think Kieran Gibbs got on his return today?
I think Kieran Gibbs done extremely well going forward and defensively, especially going forward because at times he almost played like a left winger. He was getting into the box, taking shots, putting in great balls in. That's what I think Nacho Monreal lacks is that speed. I don't think he's as good as Gibbs is attacking, but Nacho's a better defender, and that's why I prefer Kieran Gibbs, to be honest, because he likes to attack and he's actually very good at it. And one of the underrated left backs in the league, probably in the world. I think he's that good. But at times he can be low on confidence and it's not like actually go all the way to it to feel what he can do. And I think that's the big gap that he needs to fill, the big hole that he needs to fill. And he had a great game today, and maybe Wenger has a dilemma on who to select against whoever we're playing next. I can't remember.
Do you know what? I can't remember either. That's so good. Isn't it? It's not West Ham.
Crystal Palace.
Palace
Crystal
away.
Palace.
That's right. Yeah, you bang on. Yeah, Palace away, then Everton at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that's it is a dilemma. And I think it's a good dilemma to have. Too many years have we been a bit short of options at fullback or cover. So, I mean, I'm quite a big Nacho fan. I think he's been one of our underrated players this season. But it's good to see Gibbo back in the side. And he spoke very well the other day when he was asked about being outside. And he said, look, it's down to form and confidence. And, he grabbed an assist for the first goal from Giroud today and performed very well. I did just want to give a couple of nods to a couple of players as well. Sanchez, again, just worked his balls to the ground, as did Danny Welbeck. I thought he was impressive in spells today. I thought Callum Chambers come in and performed very well. Jury's still out, but I think that break's done him good. He looked a bit fresher today, he looked a bit more sprightly. And Santi Cazorla, I mean, I could just watch him all day. He's just captain the side today. I think that'll be a nice little thing for him to look back on. And I thought he was solid. And just a couple of stats for you. 6 corners to 3, 11 shots on target to Middlesbrough's 1, 6 shots wide to Middlesbrough's 2. We had 5 fouls, they had 8, and we didn't have any offsides. Back to our familiar possession, 62% over Middlesbrough's 38. So, a couple of stats for you. I want to also read you a couple of stats from our very own chief blogger, Mr. Jeff Hulun. He had some comedy stats for you. Did you know that we've scored at least 2 goals in every game Gabriel has started for us? Giroud has 100% of North London goals scored in the FA Cup this weekend. We've managed to score in every game that Santi's been captain while wearing Puma. And 50% of our goals have come from corners. So there you go. There's some light-hearted humour from our Canadian Jeff there. Let's have a little look at the old chat box and give a few nods to some people. I see Tom Canton is joining us this evening.
He is. Welcome, Tom.
Absolutely. As is
I believe it's his first time in here.
Yes, I think it is. I think he said that earlier on, didn't he? Guinness's finest is Sim. Hello, Sim. South Africa's finest as well. Tim Hargreaves. Simi Savile, absolutely. Tim Hargreaves. I don't know. I was watching a bit of your boys in the Cricket World Cup last night. I don't know whether they beat Zimbabwe, but hopefully they did for your point of view. We've also got Robert, we've got Dan Cronin, we got Mehdi, We've got Joshua John. We've got...
Liam.
Say that again?
Liam.
Yes, indeed. Liam. So good they named him twice.
Yes.
So good evening to everybody.
Yeah.
They are just a few of the 64, so evening to you all. Right, let's move this on then. So obviously we've covered a fair amount of chunk of the game, but and we've covered the goals. Jeff has just put in the box. I told you that in private. I'm sorry, Jeff. But that's that good. I mean, you've got to share these things. They are some key stats. Also noticed some of Lagunas in the chat as well, as is Luka Kolakusic. There we go, Luka. Back to you.
Luka Kolakusic.
That's the bad. It's a great name. It looked good on a shirt, though.
It is. It would. It's fun to say. It's fun to say.
It is, especially when you're Danny. Aaqib, I'll come to you then. So a game that was fairly sort of relaxed, fairly comfortable for us today. Did you feel at any point during this game, did you think that it's one of those that we should have lifted the performance and tried to sort of make a statement and go for the 4 or 5? Or are you, probably like me and Jason, quite comfortable just sitting back and going, feet up, 2-0, fairly comfortable? What did you think? Should we have pushed on for more goals, or were you overall happy with what we got?
I was overall happy with what I got. I just want to, get the 2-0, sit back, hold the lead, and then just get through to the next round, because that's what the FA Cup is all about. And you don't know what can happen in the FA Cup. You just need to get to the next round and just keep that momentum going. It would have been nice to get the 4 or 5 goals, but if that doesn't happen, as long as we win, I'm happy. That's the thing. As long as we win.
Yeah, perfectly put. I totally agree with you. Jace, by the way, Tim informs me that South Africa won by 62 runs, so well done the Proteas.
Yes.
Jace, I think it's only fair. It's very rare that we do this on the radio show, but I want to give Middlesbrough a bit of credit today.
Yeah.
I thought they came into this game, obviously they're clearly informed, they're one of the top 2 in the championship. I thought their style was good, they tried to play the ball on the deck. They weren't, barring 1 or 2 fouls. I thought the late challenge on Chuba Akpom was a little bit naughty, but overall they didn't turn up like a typical championship side and just try and kick us off the pitch. Didn't offer a lot going forward, but they were quite impressive today, weren't they? They were quite stubborn opposition.
Their keeper kept them in the game for the first 30 minutes. Until that first goal, actually, he'd made a couple of saves on a couple of really good shots. So he deserves a lot of credit there, because the name eludes me. But he did really well, and they didn't look terrible. I actually think they would probably beat a few of the other sides just straight up that are in the league right now. So I think they were a decent. I don't think they were world beaters by any means, but they were decent competition, and I think we handled them well. But you got to give them credit, because there were times when they did look threatening, especially in the second half. And I think we really showed some moxie at a few points there to be able to get the ball away and defend as a team. Which I think we really, really need to do a lot more. So I think they didn't come and just put everyone behind the ball either. They were putting about 9, 10 at the most, but they were typically leaving a striker up front, because if you look at Arsenal's scouting report, we're vulnerable on the breaks because of how our fullbacks play. So they left someone up top and had had that outlet there if they were to win the ball back. Luckily, we were able to keep the ball a majority of the time and just sort of play keep away, which I think that's really where we weren't able to do against Tottenham. Obviously, is we just weren't able to keep the ball in the middle of the park. We continued to give it away, and you see that when we are crisp in our passing in the middle of the park and continue to push forward, how effective that we can be. And I think today displayed that against a decent opponent. Who didn't necessarily come out to park the bus, but at the same time, they weren't going to just throw players forward and try to attack either. I think they came out very balanced, and I think we did a really good job to sort of neutralize their strengths and put them on the back foot and really dominate the game. So all credit goes to them. It was a great run. You can't take away that they beat City at home or City at the Etihad, and they did it convincingly. I watched the majority of that match, and City just didn't show up that day, and Middlesbrough took advantage. And we could have been sitting here today saying the same thing about us. And they're not a team that you can just sit back on your laurels on and think that you're going to wipe the floor with them. Of course, I think that's what we thought about Bradford and Brentford, and look how that turned out for us. So
yeah.
I think hopefully what this shows is that we've learned from our past, and we've learned from these smaller teams that you can't take anybody for granted, especially this year in this FA Cup tournament. There's only a handful of larger teams left, and the Cinderella teams are a lot more this year. There seem to be a lot more of them than there have been in years past, which is what these tournaments are all about. That's what it's about, is giving these smaller teams a chance to rise up and punch Goliath in the mouth and knock him down. Luckily, we cut David's head off today. So
yeah, no, absolutely. One nod I'd like to give in particular was actually ironically to a Chelsea player, and it wasn't Bamford. Kenneth Omaru, the centre half, Nigerian by birth. I think he represents South Africa. He looks like almost a Kurt Zuma replica, almost. So I think Chelsea have potentially got another player that they will sign for big money and never play on their hands there. So that's good for them. But no, he was good, and he was a beast. Christ Almighty, he was a big lad. But I think you sum it up well. I think the key word for me is effective, and I think the attitude looked to be right from the off. I think if Arsene Wenger had done his homework, which clearly he would have done, I think he would have sat them down and maybe got them to watch the Manchester City game, and said, look, if we don't go out from the off, this team will punish us. And I think barring the post at the end, they didn't really create a lot, but that was in part down to us. We pressed high, we controlled possession, and we didn't really give them a sniff. And I think that's what you need to do to these. When I say lower league sides, I don't mean to disrespect Middlesbrough, but the facts are they are in a lower league than us. So I think teams like that, you have to pay them respect, but you also need to be ruthless and take your chances. And if you do that, they're not going to have too much of a chance in the long run. So I think you're right. Let's talk about sort of the FA Cup as a whole. You touched on it there, Jace. Aaqib, I'll come to you. This is an FA Cup now that's seen. I mean, even the bin dippers were in danger of going out last night, and they turned it round late on. But barring Liverpool, and obviously we've still got to see Manchester United play tomorrow. I put a tweet out yesterday, and I said that, in my opinion, the only potential problem that Arsenal could have in this FA Cup is Arsenal. Because we typically are the sort of, we should be getting all the way to the final now, and it would be just like us to cock this up. But if you look at the other games this weekend, West Ham have gone, Sunderland have gone today, Leicester, okay, not too much opposition, but they've gone. It's opening up for us, isn't it? Is there anyone that you particularly fear other than Liverpool and Man United? And even then, do you fear them?
I don't fear Liverpool United, not particularly, no. Because they are not playing well at the moment. They are off form. Liverpool just about won against Crystal Palace the other day, and Man United had two legs against Cambridge. With all due respect to Cambridge, that's not good. Bradford are making a name for themselves at the moment. They knocked out Sunderland today, and they beat Chelsea 2-0 down at Stamford Bridge. So Bradford is the itchy one that I'm looking out for. But other than them, I'm not really worried about anyone else. But anything can happen in the FA Cup. We saw in the 11-12 season, we got knocked out by Blackburn. So anything can happen.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? It's complacency that we've got to be really careful about. Jace, you've got. I was going to say you've got 7 balls. I didn't quite mean it like that, but there's 7 balls in the hat, shall we say, other than ourselves.
Hello, ladies.
Indeed. 7 balls in the bar for Danny. There's that image again.
Oh man, I'll
You've,
never be able to get that out of my head.
No, me neither. You've got a choice, basically. I mean, you haven't got a choice, but I'm giving you a choice. Who do you want in the next round and why? And the sub-question to that, would you rather get a Liverpool and a Man United out the way now, or would you rather play them in the final or hope they get knocked out by someone else?
So I don't have a particular team. I would like to get a smaller or a lower league team next. I don't necessarily care who. Because at this point they've all beaten somebody to get where they are, whether they're Bradford or somebody else, right? I want to play the Liverpool or the United in the final, just because it's going to be great when we beat their ass and we see their fans crying leaving Wembley. That's what it's about, is beating your rivals in the biggest games. And yeah, it's big in the quarters and the semis, but to beat a team like a United or a Liverpool and have that real historical sort of draw in the final at Wembley in May, that's special. And I think that's what we as football fans live for. And I'm like I said, I've already said it before. I think this is our year again. I think we're going to go back to back in the FA Cup. So I want us to play lower sided team now. Don't necessarily care who it is, and save that big matchup for the championship so that we can beat them and send them home crying.
Yeah, fair enough. Aaqib, what do you reckon? Is there somebody or team that you would ideally prefer, and what's your thoughts on whether you'd rather draw United or Liverpool now or later on, assuming they're still in, of course?
I'm same with Jason on this. I want either United or Liverpool in the final because you want to play the big team on the big occasion. That's what a FA Cup final is about. You want to play. It's all about the biggest teams and playing either United or Liverpool if they get there. Hopefully not. If they get there, hopefully it'll be so sweet when we beat them. Really sweet. Because I get a lot of stick from being an Arsenal fan. If we beat them, it was great. A great day for Arsenal Football Club. It would be back-to-back FA Cups.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be the aim. I think definitely got to be the aim. I think you heard it here first, but I don't know why. I've got a sneaking feeling we're going to get Reading. So if I'm completely wrong, then nothing changes. If I'm right, then I want all the credit in the world for calling it now. Don't ask me why. Just got a feeling, and I wouldn't mind a trip to Reading. We got good memories there. 7-3 memories. Christ.
7-5.
7-5. Sorry, 7-3. Yeah, when I get that 7-5, you're right. Mental game of football. That
when is the when is the draw?
I'm just. I weirdly. I think. I mean, was it last year we pretty much drew everyone at home? I mean, if we had to go away, either that, maybe we could lay the ghost of Bradford. Although I'm not sure I'd fancy that. Too much history in that. But I'm on the fence a little bit with this whole United Liverpool thing. I totally take your guys' points, and I agree with Aaqib's point there that you want to play the biggest teams in the biggest games. Whether Liverpool, Man United are big teams anymore is open to debate. That was cheap, wasn't it? But but I'm of the opinion that I like Arsenal to win trophies, and the easiest way for Arsenal to win trophies is by playing opposition that are poor. Or poorer than we could. I could not face another Man United final like we had in 2005, 4. Christ, I've lost track. Anyway, the penalty shootout win, because that was painful. We got battered the whole game and pulled out the penalty win. So I couldn't go through that. I think of the two, I'd rather have United. Just for the record, I'm not 100% convinced that they're going to get past Preston, which I know sounds complete folly, but I'm not sure. I think they struggled against Cambridge, and whilst two games are never the same, I think Preston will be right up for that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Preston. I think the only chance Preston have got is tomorrow night. I think if it goes to a replay, United will be comfortable winners. But who knows? But if they do get through, and let's just assume they do, I think I would rather take United than I would Liverpool. I think Liverpool at home we would deal with comfortably. Don't really fancy Anfield just because I never do, in many ways, more than one. But
we know Santi would score there.
Well, that's true. Yes, yeah. Maybe with his nipple out again as well.
Yes, hopefully. I will say the actual draw itself, just to remind everybody, is 7:35 UK time tomorrow night.
Yes, indeed. Just before the United game, I think. So
correct.
We'll be tuning in. Other than that, the rest of the teams, I say Leicester, Villa, sorry, doesn't scare me at all. Tim Sherwood and all. Captain Bellan reporting for duty. He's a clown,
as
isn't
long as he can throw his gilet down again, or gilet, or
I don't
whatever
wanna,
the hell you call a jacket with no sleeves.
Tim, I don't want to take a job outside London, Sherwood, and I'll go and I won't join West Brom because they're not in London, but I'll manage Villa. What a tool. The only way that Villa could be more of a laughing stock is if they get Adebayor in pre-season. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they don't really fear me. As I say, Reading and Bradford, I don't fear them. I'd rather not Bradford just because of what happened to Jovino. I still see that Jovino miss in my head now. How many years ago was that? Christ. Let's not think back that far.
Little known fact: Jovino's forehead is actually it's so big it's not actually left London yet. It's still,
it is
still exiting the country. Yeah,
it is actually still there, still orbiting the world. We should just touch on sort of to sum up before we go to listeners' questions. We've got quite an important run coming up now. Now, forgive me, I haven't been able to research when the 6th round would be, but I think I'm right in saying it's mid to the latter part of March. Now we've got Monaco coming up in the near future. We've got big games away at Palace, home to Everton, home to West Ham. It's hard to say. Would you prioritise the FA Cup now? But would you prioritise the FA Cup now, Aaqib?
I got asked this question the other day that if I would sacrifice the FA Cup for the Champions League, and for Champions League run, and I couldn't answer it, to be honest, because we do have Monaco in the Champions League, and if we get past them, we have a very good chance of going through it if we keep focused on it and play properly. But the FA Cup, going back to back on the FA Cup is a rare thing.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, quite as the FA Cup for the Champions League.
It's a really tough one to answer, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's a really tough one to answer. Jace, you have a shot at that, have you? I mean, you've mentioned that you've got a feeling in your waters, which you might want to get that checked up. But do you have a preference? I mean, is there any reason why we can't focus on both? I mean, the league, we've got to make sure we secure top 4. That's got to be the priority above everything. But we are hitting form. I mean, have you got a preference as to what you'd like to see us focus on, or is it everything?
So we've got the depth in the squad to focus on everything now, I believe. And it will completely continue to, we will gradually continue to get players back from injury. It's just making sure that they don't continue to get re-injured. A lot of it, I think we need to hold Ramsey out for a significant portion of time until that hamstring really becomes 100%. He's not playing on it when it's 85, 90, 95%. And maybe Dom can answer this question a little better. About sort of the timetable that it's going to take to really get him back and firing on all cylinders to where he won't necessarily re-injure at the first lunge. So I think once we start to get these players back, and I think last year all of our players got injured sort of around more of the March to April time frame. We're doing it a little earlier this year. So hopefully we'll get them back and be able to push on. And I still believe we'll finish around 3rd. I still think that we'll finish above United because if you look at our defense, if you look at United's defense, I'll take ours every day. And then if you look at their attack and our attack, I'll take ours every day. Which still really sort of chuffs me up that we lost to them. So I still think we'll finish 3rd. No reason why we can't make a good quarterfinal, semifinal run in the Champions League and push on and lift another trophy and have another parade down by the Emirates in May. No reason why we can't.
Would be nice, wouldn't it? Would be nice.
It would be. Two parades in a row in May? Oh,
getting hazy memories, hazy days, and
this
summer
is what
nights.
Jason. This is what dreams of Colin are made of.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, God bless Colin. I hope he's well wherever he is. Yeah, I can't think of the last team that retained the FA Cup. Was it United? Was it Chelsea? I can't think back. I don't know whether it's been done recently. I can't think back to that far, but I'm sure somebody will have that in the old chat box. I bet Sim will come up with the answer. He always does. But no, for my 5 pence worth, Jace, I agree with you. I said pre-season, and I'll stand by it. I still think we'll finish third. I think Man City will kick on again, and whilst I think Chelsea will win the league comfortably, I do think City will secure second. But I do think we're good enough to finish third. Weirdly, I think the biggest rival we've got for fourth is Liverpool. And who'd have said that sort of 6-7 weeks ago when we were laughing at them? Equally, I still think they're a bollock dropping or a Sturridge injury from being very average again. So let's hope that his hamstrings go twang, if for nothing else, to stop the bellend doing that stupid dance. I mean, this is a grown man. What a twat. But yeah,
I think the whole team needs to just break out in that dance when we score at Anfield.
Oh God, if we do, I'm never watching Arsenal again.
I would
In front of the cup end.
Just as a fuck you.
In the cup end.
That would be great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for celebrating, but I like a knee slide myself. I'm all for a knee slide. But or as
you do love some rug burn on the knees, though.
Oh,
Kris,
I do.
in all
I do.
fairness.
No, absolutely, especially on Sunday evenings. I think what we'll do now is we'll go across to the chat box. I know there's a few people that have been asking a few bits and bobs. So let's see what we've got here. Tim's just put Adam, you at Kris, and asked nicely and politely. Okay, yeah. So there's a few people asking. Somebody's asked a question that I must have skipped. You can actually be in the video chat discussing your views. That's from Adam. Okay. Not quite sure what Adam's mentioning there, but anyway, let's ask for some more people. So, as Jason's just put, and as Aaqib has just put, that's brilliant timing, you guys. Give us your questions.
It's almost like we can hear what you're saying, and then we can react to it in the comment box.
You can even watch me. It's like amazing, isn't it? Here we go. We've had our first question. So I'll go Jace, Aaqib. We'll go like that. So Jace, this one's for you. Steve Moneybags. FA Cup, Champions League quarterfinals or semis and a top 4 finish. Is that an acceptable improvement from last year?
Improvement, no.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think. I think it may be on level with last year for the fact that we were sort of rocked out. I think we're going to make it to the Champions League quarters, but to lift a trophy and then actually I take that back. No, he did say FA Cup. So I take that back. Misunderstood the question, Steve. Yes, that is improvement. An FA Cup plus the quarterfinals and a top 4 finish. That is. It's granted it's like a 1% improvement, but at the same time, at least we're on the right path, and at least we're getting some well-needed, even more momentum than we had last year off the FA Cup win. So, but yeah, again, I think that's FA Cup quarterfinals and a top 3. I really think the top 3 is the biggest thing that we need to do. Saving some of our players, that's an extra 2 games if you're having to play in the playoffs for the Champions League group stage that you're not having to get. At the same time, the other half of me thinks that those 2 matches that you play in that playoff leg are actually somewhat important at the beginning of a season to help you gain some sharpness. To help you get into form a little quicker in the league as well, and you get your players, that's 2 extra. So it's a double-edged sword to finishing 4th and 3rd. I take 3rd every day because I hate finishing 4th because that means another team finished above you that wouldn't have if you were in 3rd. Plus just the fact that knowing that you've got it, I do think some players that could be the tipping point for them in coming is the fact that, hey, you're not guaranteed this. If you have a couple of bad nights and you're out, and what have we got to look forward to? Especially if they're not British and they're coming from somewhere else, they're not going to put the value in the FA Cup and the League Cup that they win in Champions League. So I think that's hugely important. The 3rd place, I think, is really should be our focus in the league, and not having to battle it out with that lot. I will say Newcastle 1-0. That's going on. but yeah, I think third place, an FA Cup and quarterfinals is a good year for us and something to build on. It shouldn't be the goal every year, but as you continue to readjust your goals throughout the year as the table stands, I think that's a successful season for us at this point in the year.
Cool. There you go. There's your question answer, Stevie. Just want to address a couple of bits and bobs, bit of housekeeping here. For Adam Park, his question, I think what he was asking is how can he appear on said show. Adam, drop me a message on Twitter. Just tweet me or the podcast account, and we can't promise because we've got a long queue of people that want to come on at the moment, but we're always looking for new talent on the old radio show. So drop us a line and we'll see if we can make it happen at some point for you.
Talent.
Sorry.
Talent. You look at why am I here?
Well, talent and you.
Aaqib, we got Aaqib today. That's great. That's our talent.
Absolutely. No, we like to get we like to get new faces on and people that know their stuff. So I just press the buttons like Danny. It's all good. And also I wanted to address somebody else put a point here that I wanted to address, which I'm trying to find, which I now can't. Brilliant. Okay, I'll move on. Aaqib, next question's for you then, and this one is from Croc. No, it's not. It's from Tom. Sorry, Tom Canton, a friend of the show. He said, same as the podcast question that he asked. When the Ox is back, does he start on the right and Alexis on the left, or do we stay the same, defensively better? What do you reckon to that?
I think Ox comes back in because he's had a great season so far, and he hasn't had a season like this. He hasn't had like a steady run of games, if you know what I mean. And I think he deserves his place back in because of all the work that he's done before, because he likes to attack and defend. So I think that he does come back in. I'll go with Ox on the right, Alexis on the left, and I'll put Ozil as the number 10. I'll put... go on, Jason.
I've actually got something that's different that is a roundabout answer to the question. I wouldn't put Ox on the right. I'd put him beside Coquelin.
I was going to ask you about that.
Having play in that deep lying role, and then you can still leave the pace up front on the wings with Theo and Sanchez and Welbeck and play those three sort of interchangeably wherever you want across the front. But have Ox, remember that great period he had in March of last season was playing from that deep lying sort of box-to-box playmaker role that Ramsey had been in before Ramsey got injured. That game that he had against Palace where he was just unstoppable, that's where he played. And I think with somebody like a Coquelin beside him, back there holding, gives him the freedom to sort of go about, but he's still a smart enough player and intelligent enough to know when to get back and where to get back to. So that's sort of it does answer the question and at the same time answers another question. But that's sort of where I would bring him back into the squad, and you're still able to keep Theo up front on the right or Sanchez on the right and Welbeck in it, and sort of use those players in any creative way that you want to in the attack.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to agree with that. I've actually got a quick. Sorry, go on, Aaqib.
What Wenger did today, you could put Cazorla in that playmaker role as well, which I really like, because we haven't had that sort of calmness into the midfield since the injury to Mikel Arteta. I think that's what we've been missing for a few months now. So I think that's another option to do. Or you could put Rosicky there as well.
I think that's a great point. I think exactly what you said there. I think too many people were quick to slag off Arteta when he was out of the side, but the simple fact is we lost the calmness, we lost that sort of ability to keep the side ticking over at a good pace. And the great thing with Santi is he's more tenacious than people think. Not so much with thundering tackles, but he nicks the ball off players and he protects the ball really well, and he can travel with it, and it frees up people like Ozil to make those runs in front of him. So I think that's an excellent point. I've got a very quick one for you both to answer. Your top 4 at the end of the season. Doesn't have to be in any particular order, but that was from Luka Kolakusic. So, Jace, who's in your top 4 at the end of the season?
Arsenal, and then Arsenal.
If only.
Do I have to say the other team's names? Because I really fucking hate
You could use your own. You could use your own vernacular if you like.
So, Chavsky
Mhm.
up top, obviously. Man Shitty,
Mhm.
probably in second. Us in third. And I see United actually getting into that fourth spot above Liverpool.
Fair enough.
Which the great thing about that is Tottenham, I actually think, finished like seventh, which leaves them, which means Thursday isn't Spurs Day anymore.
No.
I love Spurs Day Thursday. It's like the best thing to say to all your Spurs friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my top four is Chavs, Shitty, Arsenal, and then that other piece of crap team in fourth. Yeah.
Aaqib, have you got anything different, or are you much the same?
I've got Chelsea first, City second, Arsenal third, and I would go for Southampton fourth.
Interesting.
Good shout.
My hometown, so
yeah, you got to give them some love. Yeah, I'd like to see it for the record if we finish third. And I think Jace, you made an excellent point that I should come back to that qualifier. I know it's lovely to have Arsenal back early, but I'd quite like next year for us not to be back early. I'd like us to have a settled pre-season, nice and relaxed, and be straight into that hat rather than have to go through that playoff. I know our record's good, but I would rather have a longer summer myself, especially without a World Cup or a European Championship. Just give the players a complete, proper rest. And of course, bed in our 8 new signings. For the record, I'm different to both of you. I'm the same top 3. I think we'll finish there. But as I said earlier, I got a feeling that the bin dippers from Scousland will end up fourth. So let's hope not. But that's my feeling. Aaqib, let's come to you. Brendan O'Donoghue, he was saying that we played like we had 10 men on the field today. He thinks Flamini's not good enough. And besides Schneiderlin, who's your DM pick for the summer? He thinks Gonalons at Lyon, who I'm a big fan of. Anybody you would like, other than everyone seems to like Schneiderlin, anyone that you'd like to chuck into the mix that you'd like?
Yeah, I have a personal soft spot for Javi Martinez from Bayern Munich.
Mm-hmm.
He can play centre back, he can play the holding midfielder. He's very good on the ball for a tall guy. He's got tons of stamina, so I think he'll cost a lot, no doubt about it, but I think he's like the perfect mix of what we're missing. Big, strong, physical, good on the ball, and he's got a great engine on him. So I think Javi Martinez is a potential buy for him, for Arsenal. Maybe I think Gonalons. Gonalons is the more realistic target, in my opinion. Schneiderlin and Gonalons, but I want Javi Martinez because I think he's the whole package. He's got everything.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Just quickly, Jace, have you got anybody you particularly have a soft spot for on that one?
Until he proves otherwise, Coughlin.
Mm-hmm.
Why bring somebody in if he can fill the role that we need?
Yep.
He's on form right now. Who says he's going to fall out of that form? And why spend money on a position where you would, granted, I still think I do think we still need to bring somebody in. But I think that we need to let Coughlin start. I mean, he's gone out on loan. He's put the time in here at the club, and it's paying off now for us. And what message does that send to the rest of the youngsters? He does.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And that's why I really want to hold off all my sort of DM talk until the end of this season. Just give him a good sample size. Let's see what he does. And then let's go from there. And if we don't think he can do it for the future in the big games, then let's bring. I don't watch enough, continental football to be able to say I like Schneiderlin. Do I think he can make the step up to a big club at Arsenal? I think it still is, still to be seen. At the same time, I think he's got all the tools. He knows the Premier League. He wouldn't have to take the betting in time that somebody else would. But until Coughlin really has a bad run that shows that he's not a good player for us, why bring somebody in and just alienate him further if he's put the time in as a youth and coming up through the ranks? I think that just sends a terrible message to the rest of the players in your youth system.
Yeah, well said. If only we had somebody. If only we had somebody on this show that watches lots of football from all around the world. Yeah.
Who's your pick, Kris?
Well, as soon as you asked.
Anyone from the French Ligue 2, I'm sure, right, Kris?
Well, I mean, Gonalons is definitely one I like. I must admit. Anyone that knows me will know I've got a bit of a soft spot for Kris at Sevilla, Polish central defensive midfielder. Which, ironic, we're forgetting about Christian Bielik, who we've not seen play.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, he's clearly not ready yet, but he's got 6 months before realistically we need to see him. He could well, over the course of the next 4 to 5 months of the rest of the season, and over the summer, he could turn out to be a beast that we've never heard of. I remember Cesc Fabregas starting the first game away at Everton when we won 7-1, when he basically made his breakthrough, and everyone was like, "Who is this guy playing alongside Gilberto Silva? He's 16. He's got terrible hair. Who is he?" And we all know what happened next. So don't rule out Mr. Wenger having another gem in Bielik. But if I had to bring someone in, I'm not sold on Schneiderlin as much as everyone else. Don't get me wrong. I think I certainly wouldn't be disappointed. I agree with a lot of people's points. I think he's Premier League ready and he would slot in nicely. My only argument would be I'm not 100% sure he's Arsenal quality. And when I say that, I don't mean, I'm not saying Gonalons is or Krychowiak is, but I'm just not 100% sure whether he's Spurs quality level or whether he's Arsenal quality level. But if we sign him,
good point.
But if we sign him, then 100% behind him, and I hope I think you're right, Jace. I think we need another body, but for me, you can't take that place off Coquelin at this stage. So let's add rather than replace is what I'd say to that.
Correct.
Let's pick out another one. Apologies for anyone that I've skipped here, by the way. I'm just trying to sort of filter through and catch up. So
I want to say I think Brendan O'Donoghue put a great line in. I think it's really about karma. His post in here, it says we should sacrifice Diaby to the footballing gods for a new DM. I'm not sure there's enough of the real Diaby left to sacrifice.
No. I mean, is he still alive? I mean, I'm worried. I'm worried about whether he's still alive.
So I love the guy, and I think he's. I can't even say that because to talk about the potential that he has, because I just don't think he has the potential because he's going to get hurt again. And I think that's one of the things I think that's one of the last quote unquote pieces of, and I hate to refer to him as that, I probably just won't, but one of the last sort of remaining things on the wage sort of logbook that we need to sort of just get rid of. Because unfortunately his body's not meant to work in the Premier League. And I want to, another league that's not as physical. I think he's going to be a world-class player in.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he's made for the Premier League, and I hate to say that, but
no.
But yeah, it's one of those. It's an incredibly sad story to think about the time that he's spent here,
and the talent.
trying to prove everybody wrong, and just can't seem to get the chance to consistently do it. So I think it's time we move him on.
I think one of two things will happen. I think what was telling was the manager came out recently and he's always backed him and he's always said I'll give him time and we'll support him. I think for the first time, I think the last time he was brought up in a press conference, I think he said we'll have to look at that at the end of the season. So that for me is, if there was ever a hint that maybe he's just sort of, he's given him as many chances. I hope he has a career, even if it's in going back to France. I hope he still has a career, but we're not a charity at the end of the day, and you've got to look to have what is readily available, and he is another wage, he is another player. So it's harsh, but it's the way it is. Somebody's mentioned in the chat room as well, Joe.
I think he could have been better than Patrick Vieira, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right. He had everything. He had everything, and then he had everything taken away.
Yeah,
I think that's the sad part. It's not like he's done something to himself. It's just the way it is, and unfortunately, that young lad who wrecked his career will have that on his conscience. Well, I hope he does. I should give a nod to Joe Jr., who's mentioned Dan Crowley, who, whilst we don't want to big up these players too much. I think he is potentially the next sort of gem to come through that central midfield, probably more as a more offensive player. But he, who better for him to learn off of than Cazorla and Alexis or Ox? And there's so many players he can learn off of. So he's definitely one to look at in the future.
Still got Zelalem as well.
Yeah, he's still very much in the mix. A few people have asked about Sissoko. That all went quiet. I still like him. I still like him. I think he's more box to box than DM, but
yeah.
I think
if you're listening and not watching this and not in the comment box, I actually responded back in the comment box. He seems a bit rash to me, not like a calming presence, sort of. I think that you need in the role that we would play him in. But decent shout though.
Yeah, I think in January he would have been excellent business because I do think we needed numbers personally, but we got Bilic and we've got players back from injury, which is important. I think in the summer when everyone is basically available, I think we can probably do better than Sissoko, if I'm honest. And as I say, that's not. I like him as a player. I do like him, but I think the January market is very different to the summer market, and in the summer there's no tournament this summer, and I think we can go bigger, and I think we should go bigger. We're the Arsenal at the end of the day.
There is a tournament this summer. It's called the Gold Cup.
Sorry, yes, there is.
Christopher, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I do apologise.
It's like the U.S. men's team's guaranteed trophy every other year.
Yeah, well, yeah, there is that. And also, Robert's just mentioned Sami Khedira, who I think is still yet to sign a contract at Madrid. Although all things point to that he will, so probably.
He's not a defensive midfielder.
Say that again, sorry, Keith?
He's not a defensive midfielder.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and
definitely box to box.
Yeah, Robert said that, but he Robert makes a good point though. He says not a DM, but he's still a physical sort of center mid, which I think is true. Yep. I just think that Khedira is closer to the downswing of his career than he is hitting his peak form, and I think if we're looking to really push on, we can't be signing people on the down form. We got to be signing people on the up.
Yeah, I agree. Quick update for you as well. Colin the Sock, he's just let me know that he's grand. He's doing well. So that's good to hear because we were worried for a minute there. I think we'll start to wind this up, gentlemen. We've probably gone longer than we planned as it is. So we'll begin to wrap us up. Before I do, I want to give a quick nudge to, we've mentioned him once already, but I'd like to give a nudge to Jeff Hollandfriend, who is managing our blogging. For those of you that don't already know, we now have a Twitter account purely for our blogs. It's at the Bergie Blogs. You can find the link via our Twitter page for the podcast account, but it's just a far easier way. We'll still tweet the blogs from the pod account as normal, but it's an easy way to keep in touch with things. And obviously, we appreciate we've got readers all around the world, so we can only sort of tweet at certain times, and I'm sure we'll miss some of your lunch times or breakfast times. So keep an eye on that. There'll be blogs frequently going up. We've got Simon, Jake, Neil and Jeff himself, and even Danny occasionally blogging. So and even myself when I can be fitting it into my schedule. But there's some excellent stuff up there. Jeff has just written a piece about the TV rights, which for our overseas listeners, it's a massive deal over here in the UK. About this new TV deal, and there'll be a few things I want to touch on in the next pod about the grassroots and how it affects people at my level as well. So it's a really good read, so do give that some love. Also, we should just give a mention to Thursday's pod. As far as I know, my good self will be on there with Gimli and Danny, and I think from memory, I think it's Andrew this week. And we've got a special guest. Park 5, indeed. We've got a gentleman coming on by the name of Andrew Gibney, who's a friend of mine, and he's on a podcast which is French Football Weekly, which is on iTunes. Little plug for those guys. He'll be coming on to preview the Monaco game. He's a Lille fan, lives in France, very, very knowledgeable on all things French football, follows everything in Ligue 1 every week. So he's in a good position to talk about all things Monaco. So that should be good. And I think the loose plan is for us to do a little bit of an Arsenal French themed pod. So we'll be having a bit of a natter about all things French and Arsenal over the years. So that should be a good little episode as usual. And I think it's safe to say we've forgotten about last weekend now. We've won twice. We're back in the saddle.
I haven't, Kris.
I'm trying to.
Well, I can't.
No.
Because to let everybody know, at work, if you've not heard, I do work for a football team in the U.S. And one of our defenders is a Spurs fan.
My sympathy.
And we made a bet for this game.
Oh yes, you did. Oh God, yeah.
That if Arsenal won, he would have to wear an Arsenal kit in training for a week.
Mm.
And because Spurs have now won, I must wear some Spurs gear during our home opener on April 4th, in front of about probably close to 6,500 fans.
Mm.
About 70 of which are Arsenal fans that know I'm an Arsenal fan, because it's obviously the summer, so I wear short sleeves, and I've got an Arsenal tattoo on my forearm, and so now that's going to be covered up with he's giving me a Spurs jacket to wear that night.
Mm.
So not only will I be sweaty, but I will be in Spurs gear for about 4 hours.
Just put an Arsenal shirt underneath.
It is. I am. Yeah. That's the goal.
Because you can't let that touch your skin, because it will.
I know. But yeah, so thanks Arsenal for fucking that one up.
Also, to answer Tom Canton's question in the chat box, he says, will there be a radio show after the Palace game? As far as we know, Tom, yeah. There should be one after every game now, barring some midweek games, because we don't want to sort of over-saturate things. So if we've got a game on a Wednesday, for example, we probably won't do one, because obviously we've got the pod the next day. But weekend games, barring myself or Danny being killed, which obviously I'd be preferable not to happen, we should be doing one. So stay tuned for that. Shout-outs. Aaqib, thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate you coming on. Hope you enjoyed it. Have you got anybody you'd like to shout out, or anything you'd like to plug, or any debauchery you'd like to enlighten people on?
Actually, I didn't prepare for this, so I'm sorry. No. I'll give a shout. I'll give a shout out to Danny for letting me come on, and you.
Oh, that's very kind. He'll appreciate that. The big lovable bear. I think he's just joined us after a half-hour-long poo. So I hope that went well, Danny. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Aaqib. You're welcome back anytime. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. And Jace, you got anything you want to plug? Anybody you want to shout out? Anything like that?
I do. I would love to shout out a couple of guys that help me out. I'm getting into bourbon now, and a couple of Arsenal fans out with the bourbon. My initial bourbon purchase, a good gooner from Greensboro, North Carolina, about an hour and 15 minutes away from where I live, called at Jeff Markman, as well as Jonathan Gazicki, who is actually the president of the Arsenal Kentucky. So at Arsenal Kentucky, help me out. So big shout out to those guys, and if you're ever in Kentucky, check out Jonathan and the whole Arsenal Kentucky crew, because those guys are great, as well as everybody in Greensboro, and Jeff Markman with the Greensboro Gooners, because they're good people as well. So those are my two.
Cool, thank you very much. And I'd like to give a brief shout out to Edda. I'm going to try this, Edda, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Munyampenda. Now that sounds like a name of possibly of African descent, so if I'm wrong I apologise, but it's a great name, Edda, and he's just put that he's a first time listener, so welcome to the mad world of ABW there, Edda. Do have a listen to our pods, hope you enjoy. Well, that's pretty much it from us. Thank you to everyone that's joined us. Again, apologies we didn't get to everybody's questions. We try our best, but I am male, so I can only do one thing at a time, and following questions as well as looking at cameras is always difficult. So apologies if we missed anybody. Have a look at us on Facebook. if you don't already, follow our Twitter account. Any questions you got for the pod on Thursday, give us a nudge. And again, just to repeat, keep them French or Monaco based. We'll get as many questions to Andrew as we can, and hopefully we'll answer questions. So anybody that wants to know about individual players or how Monaco are doing, or anything you want to know about French things connected to Arsenal, post a question on our Facebook page, which is run by the wonderful Mr. Flip Flop, Jason Davies. Does an excellent job with our Facebook page. So chuck us any questions and we'll do our best to answer them. But on behalf of Danny, who's not here today but is listening away, and thank you again to Jace, thank you again to Aaqib. That was a cue for you guys to say bye, but that's fine.
Goodbye. Hello, can you hear me?
Terrible.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you to everybody for joining us, and thank you to you guys, and we will speak to you again soon. Keep it Arsenal.